So I'm outside on the balcony and it's actually really noisy out here right now, so I hope that's not going to be a problem. All these cars, my God. So anyways, if you've clicked on this video, you're either thinking about moving to Berlin or you've already lived here for a while and you've clicked on it because you know that it's a fact that it's very hard to find friends in this city and like to keep them and to find good, genuine, wholesome, long lasting friendships. It's like so loud and I feel so weird. There's so many people, but I'm gonna do it anyways. People in Germany don't like when people have their phones out, or a camera out recording. They're like, what are you doing? What are you doing that in public for? And technically, I'm not in public, okay? I'm just on the balcony in a private apartment. So, eat me, Germans. Oh my God, I'm gonna offend so many people. But, yeah, so, anyways, living in Berlin and making friends in this city is no easy task, like at all. So, I'm just gonna like tell you kind of how I made friends and my advice on how to do that, and if I had to do things differently, what I would do. One of the biggest things you need to understand is there's a lot of expats in this city. So people keep their friendships very surface level. They don't really want to, invest in deep connections if they know they're not going to stay in this city for very long. So that's one thing to consider. And it's part of why people keep everything at the surface because no one stays here. A lot of the friends I made early on, like they were very flaky. They didn't, commit to actually making plans, which is funny because that's something that they say that Americans do all the time. They're like that they'll say like, Americans, they're always like, "Oh, we missed you so much. We should totally get together and hang out sometime soon." And then they like never call you for a year, you know? But Germans, the stereotype is that Germans will say that and then they'll like actually show up at your house the next day, or like actually call you when they said they would. And if they RSVP to a party, they're actually gonna show up, which is also, yeah. So, this city, it's not nice to newcomers, especially if you're clearly not making an effort to speak German. That can rub people the wrong way. They'll kind of ice you out because, like I said, a lot of people don't stay here permanently. So they also don't want to give their energy to others that they feel are not going to stay. So if you're only in Berlin for a short time, your best bet is to make friends with other people who are also only here for a short time. That's just like advice number one. You need to be very intentional in the friends that you do meet, like make, and don't be surprised if it stays very surface level if you're friends with just like exclusively expats, for example. So that's advice number one. And another thing that I would say, there's a lot of meetup groups that you can go to, but I would be wary of some of these because if you're specifically searching meet people in Berlin and you're going to meetup groups for expats, this can actually get like kind of awkward. You don't really have anything to talk about, you don't have any common ground. So I would just avoid those. I've never met any long lasting friends from meetup groups like that. All of the people that I have met has been very organic. Like a very good friend that I have now, I met at basically a CBD shop 2 years ago. And I was a regular. And after showing up to this place like all the time, we started talking. I would stay, we'd have a smoke together, we would chat. We just found ourselves, clicking on a lot of things and really getting along. So that's how I met my now, what I would consider one of my closest friends, probably my closest friend here in Berlin. And that's how he and I met. And it wasn't intentional, it was totally an accidental thing. And it's not something that happens all the time because I feel like a lot of people here, they aren't going to just strike up conversation with you I'm from the South in the United States, so you could be standing in line at the grocery store and people are going to strike up a conversation somehow. Here everyone is very like icy and very cold and it might be a little bit harder for you to achieve. So I really recommend going to actual places and becoming a regular there, whether it's a bar, a pottery class, a dance class, the gym. That's another place that I found another friend, one of the first people that I became friends with and exchanged phone numbers with in Berlin was a girl that I met at the gym. She like saw that I was using the equipment and I knew what I was doing. She didn't know what she was doing and she came up and was like, "Hey, could you help me? Like, how does this work?" And I showed her and then she gave me a very honest and blunt, very German compliment. She was like, I just wanted to say I find it very inspiring that you wear, this gym outfit and you have so much confidence and you don't care what people think. I think that's awesome. Which at first I was like almost offended. Like, what do you mean? Why shouldn't I be confident? Because, I mean, America has a lot more bigger girls, especially like in Texas. There's a lot of people with my body. Here in Berlin, there are not a lot of people with my body. And I'm not even like that big. I would now, especially after losing weight, I'd consider myself mid sized. But yeah, I would be like wearing the, you know, cropped sports top with pink leggings, and I didn't care. And people would look at me like, whoa, did she know that she's fat? She should be ashamed. But I didn't care. I mean, I just didn't. And she saw that. She saw my energy, and she was like, I want to be friends with that person because they're confident. So honestly, go out into the world, be yourself, radiate, be bold, be courageous, shine. People are going to be attracted to that. Like, no matter where you are in the world, I would say that that's good advice for making friends. People want to be friends with confident people. So you just have to be that person that is confident. Even if you're faking it, just do it. And people will come. And that's kind of how I've made a lot of my friends in Berlin, just like showing up to places, regular places, and you eventually meet people and it becomes organic, and that's literally how it happens. And I mean, also school, right? If you're in school or work, I do have some work friends, not like a lot, because also a lot of the people I work with, they're here on work visas and like they're not going to be staying for very long. So they're not really like long-term friends, because I'm planning on living here for the foreseeable future. So the friends that I make so far, the ones that I have made are, you know, they're Berliners. They were either born and raised here or they've always lived in Germany and they're always going to stay. If you wanted to join groups, meetup groups, like I said, keep it away from that like groups that advertise meet expats in Berlin or friend meeting groups. That is like got a high turnover rate. Different people come every week. It's not going to be like a lot of regulars, and it's like Russian roulette. Like you roll the dice and you hope that you meet someone there that you click with and you happen to have an organic conversation. It's really better to go to something like a sports event or the gym or like a class of some kind, and or even just a bar or karaoke night, comedy nights. Oh my god, there's so many comedy nights in Berlin, and you will find no shortage of places to go in this city, social places. Like, it is really not that hard. You just have to be proactive. It's not going to happen to you. Most of my friends in America that are still like my good friends, it just kind of happened to me. I didn't really have to go anywhere or do anything. I just met them at work or like at the grocery store, like buying shrimp or whatever. And because that's the culture, people will just strike up conversation with you. And here, I feel like, and it's also part of the perk, I can go to the grocery store and not talk to a single soul. And that's really nice sometimes when I don't want to be social. Yeah. So there's also like a construction worker behind me staring at me, and it's making me really uncomfortable, but I don't care. Just gonna keep talking. This isn't my apartment. I'm cat sitting right now this week, so they don't know who I am. So it's whatever. Kitty, stop eating the plant. Johnny, Johnny, this is Johnny. He's a beautiful cat. His sister, I think, went inside. Okay, 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 okay. Anyways, This city is notoriously like cold. Not, I don't mean the weather. I'm talking about the people. And I would not say all Germans are like this. Like for by and large, a lot of Germans can be very cold to outsiders. And part of this is because, a lot of people move to the city and then they leave. So why should they be nice to you? You're not going to stick around. So make an effort. Show that you actually want to stay here and want to live here and want to invest in your life here and invest in your friends. Show up to things. Don't do that American thing where you're like, oh, I totally love to meet up again for coffee, and then you never call them. Don't do that. You have to actually show up. So if you ever find yourself like wondering why am I not making friends? It might be because you're not proving that you're going to be here to stay. This advice is really for people who are moving here or are like living here and staying. Obviously, if you're a student or you're just here for a work visa, you're already going to like meet people at work and school. So I don't feel like you need this advice as much. Maybe I'm wrong, but if you're not going to stay here long term anyways, how important is it to make like long term friends here? A lot of people come here expecting friends to just fall into their lap like we're used to in the States or Canada or wherever you're from, you know? But that's not going to happen. You have to make an effort. You have to prove yourself here. Even if that means learning German. Like if you're not in Berlin and you live in any other city, honestly, you got to learn German, babe. You got to. You got to. Honestly, I should be learning way more aggressively than I am right now. I'll also put some apps or websites or resources for you in the description and also up on the screen. Just things that I maybe am forgetting right now. I think it's important to put yourself out there. That's really the gist of this video. You have to put yourself out there and be really progressive and just become a regular. Go to a coffee shop and you go to that coffee shop every day and you budget that money. Maybe you're not a club person because that's also a great way to make friends. There are literal clubbing groups you can join. Um, and you just go and you party with people and you do drugs with people, and it's very Berlin, and that's a very Berlin thing to do. I would recommend that more for like people who are really into that scene specifically, or if you're just passing through and you wanted to meet someone and have a good time, you'll find some very surface level light fun friendships there. But when it comes to real wholesome friendships, it should come organically from places that you frequent often. So if you're not a party person, literally go to the bookstore a lot. Go to a coffee shop a lot and befriend your local barista because we love to talk, we love to chat. And also like you can message me, you could comment below if you wanted to like meet me, maybe we'd be friends. I don't know. But if you're like a weirdo, you just like fuck off. I'm not about that life. So that's the gist of this video. And I don't have a whole lot more to say. This is actually a way shorter video than I planned, but I think it's because that's how simple it is. Just don't waste your time on those meetup groups that specifically advertise for. I mean, I could be wrong. If you want to do it, go do it. If you want to also meet expats, then go do it. And honestly, depending on where you're from, you might not jive with Germans. Honestly, it took me a long time to gain their respect. After I'd already lived here for at least a year, they were like, oh, okay, you're here to stay. But they will ice you out if they think you're just a tourist. They hate tourists here, just like everyone from any city hates, tourists that come through because we're annoying. They're annoying, I mean. I'm not a tourist, I live here. So once you establish that, and you frequent places like everyday places where it's like, oh no, they've been going here for a while, that's a familiar face, maybe I'll see what they're up to, that seems like an interesting person. It just goes back to like your energy. You have to act like you're an interesting person, and I really had to step up my game, and not dress so basic, because in Berlin it's really a fashion city. I mean, I say that because it is. I mean, in Europe or in Germany in general, everyone is pretty casual for parties and stuff like that. Everyone is very casual. but I also see a lot of individuality and uniqueness in the young people and how they dress here, like people my age. And so, if you want to stand out, you have to make yourself appear interesting. And it really does come down to how you're portraying yourself and carrying yourself. If you're dressing like you don't care about yourself, you're not brushing your hair, why would people want to talk to you? Why would they want that depressing energy in their life? And I know that might sound really cold and harsh, but I'm saying that because that's how I was when I first came here. Like, I've always had fashion sense, but where I'm from, especially in Missouri, it was very suppressed. Like, not a lot of people dressed very eccentrically. And here I feel like I can really just do that, you know? If I was in any like other little small German village, I would stand out in a bad way. But in Berlin, you can really have fun and you can be yourself. Now, I will say everyone wears black here. Like, if you wanted to not stand out too bad, dress eccentrically, but in neutral colors or specifically in black. That's a great way to like get the Berliners respect. There's a lot of alternative people here, and I feel like anytime I wear really bright, loud colors, it draws the wrong kind of attention, and I don't necessarily want that. So that would be probably like advice number three, four, I don't know what number I'm on right now, is just kind of take care of how you're dressing to portray, to attract the type of friends that you want. And again, that could stand for anywhere that you live in the world, not just in Berlin. What is the cat doing? And I can make more videos about like my personal experience when I first moved here, like my first year in Berlin, and why I was so depressed. And I mean, honestly, I'll touch on it a little bit now. I was really depressed because I was not putting myself out there. I was expecting life to happen to me. But especially in a city like this, you really have to like you have to compete. There's a lot of people in this city who want to be friends with a lot of beautiful, amazing, wonderful people, and so you have to offer something in the friendship. You can't just exist. You know, what are you going to bring to the table? Everything is very equal here. Even just like at a class level, everyone is very equal. Obviously, there's some exceptions to this, but I feel like in the States, there's such a big class divide where you can only be friends with people who like generally make the same amount of money as you. Well, not that you can only be friends with them, but you're more likely to be friends with and meet people in the same social class um, and financial class as you, because there's such a divide. And people like put themselves in these little cliques in these little boxes. But I feel like in Berlin, it's just like this Mod Podge melting pot of like all these different people who live here, and everyone makes close to the same amount of money, but also it doesn't matter how much money you make because people don't really care about that here. You know, like people care about who you are as a person and what you're bringing to the friendship. So if you don't feel like you're very well defined, it might be harder for you to make friends, because I feel like you really need to discover yourself and shine and be brave and courageous in order to attract those kinds of healthy, good friends. Because you can also attract the wrong kind of people who want to take advantage of you, etc., etc. So that's my advice. I don't really have a lot left to say. Um, Yeah, wow. I didn't really have a lot to say because it really comes down to like a couple of things. Be yourself, be the best version of yourself, be brave, courageous, all of that, comes down to who you are and who you portray yourself to be. Be proactive and be a regular in a place. You have to. Like, that's how you make friends, because it's not just going to happen to you. And what's the last thing? Um, Maybe that was all the things. Yeah. Versus if I was giving advice in like living in Dallas, making friends in Dallas, you wouldn't even need a video because it just happens to you. It's just the culture of people and how everyone talks. The amount of people I've met standing in line at the grocery store, like I said, or just doing like mundane tasks. The post office line. In America, everyone has this sense of togetherness when we're out and about, where here I feel like it's very like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this just is my perception, and just because I've only lived in Berlin, and maybe it would be different in a smaller village, but feel like it's kind of every man for himself here in this city. So you got to compete for friends. And I feel like not all, they also have to be ready to receive you, right? You might meet this person and you're like, I want to be their friend. But if they've got a tight group, they're not going to necessarily be open to, inviting another person into their life, because I feel like Berliners are very good about meeting up with their friends, spending time together, doing brunches, doing lunches, going to their parties. So they're not going to be befriending all of these different people, let alone a foreigner, that they can't dedicate their time to. So also think about that. Like, they might not be ready to invite you into their life as a friend. So it can be complicated, but if you just have patience, it will happen. For me, it happened all organically. And honestly, no meetup group ever helped me find friends. It might help you. I'm just telling you what my experience is. So, this is the video. I'm done rambling now. Thank you for watching. And I'm going to go inside and see what the cats are up to. So, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.